Well, the big day finally came for Different Spokes TV, and we've added little Cassidy to our family. And I have to say, I am in awe of my wife Brooke, who overcame some serious complications and gave birth to our little girl. Without going into the details, we had a scare about Brooke's safety, but fortunately everything is well, Brooke is recovering, and Cassidy is healthy, happy, and an absolute blessing. This whole experience has confirmed to me that I am married to the best person I know, and it has brought Brooke and me closer together, if that's even possible. And we are looking forward to raising a capable and confident little girl, just like Mom. Which brings us to the topic of this video, confidence among young folks, a thing that seems to be lacking these days. Despite the fact that the world has never been safer, young people seem to be suffering from more anxiety and other mental disorders than ever before, and that does not bode well for the motorcycle industry, an industry that depends on its customers taking a chance by doing an activity inherently more dangerous than driving. So is this trend affecting sales, and is it ultimately going to sink the motorcycle industry? Stay tuned for an analysis. And as always, please consider helping this small channel out by subscribing, liking this video, and sharing it with friends. Here's a quiz for you. In what year did the United States see its highest ever new motorcycle sales? 1973. Yup, the US has 57% more people than it did in 1973, yet motorcycle sales are about half of what they were half a century ago. To what can we attribute this? Well, movies like Easy Rider and On Any Sunday certainly glamorized the lifestyle back then, but can that really offset such a population difference, more than offset it? My usual thesis is that motorcycling has gotten way more expensive. The bikes, the insurance, and the gear have all significantly risen in price. Also, motorcycling is not as cool anymore. Instead of a young Peter Fonda setting off on an epic journey, young people now see a bunch of old farts. 50 years old seems to be the average age of today's riders, and it doesn't help that a lot of the old farts are dressed like pirates or wannabe racer boys. Finally, there's just a greater choice of activities these days. Why go to all the trouble of doing physical stuff when you can do it just using your thumbs in a video game? So the lower sales numbers, especially among young people, probably have several causes. However, fear is definitely one of the big ones, and that is not entirely unwarranted. Because let's be honest, motorcycling is somewhat risky. According to the latest statistics, you are 28 times more likely to die if you get into a motorcycle accident than in a car accident. So I certainly don't want to push anyone into the sport if they are iffy about the risks, and I am never going to push my daughter to ride a motorcycle. But if she chooses to do so, I will make sure that she is well educated in the risks, and that her skills are well above average before she hits the road or trail. Ultimately, most things worth doing carry a risk. Mountain biking, martial arts, hiking, rock climbing, putting on a flying squirrel suit and hurling yourself down the side of a mountain. A huge number of those guys end up going splat every year, by the way. Motorcycling is orders of magnitude less risky than that. But risk is in the eye of the beholder, and young people tend to be beholding more of it these days. When I was young, I'm 49 now, we used to think of the older generation as a bunch of squares, pretty much the same thing every generation thought of the generations before. However, Millennials and Gen Z are looking to be the first generations that are more risk-averse and fearful of the world than their predecessors. These days, younger people are the fearful scolds, while the older generations that lived through wars, the sexual revolution, and the rock and roll age are the ones urging young folks to lighten up. Young people today engage in less risky behavior than ever before. They use less substances, they have less sex, and get into fewer fights than Gen X and the boomers. And while these are generally good things, they come at the cost of more mental health problems. It could be due to the constant barrage of bad news we receive from the 24-hour quote-unquote news broadcasts, which rely on sensationalism and clickbait headlines to drum up fear and keep those eyeballs on the product. Keeping your audience in a constant state of alarm has them coming back to watch news that has nothing to do with them. No, terrorists won't attack your tiny village in Nebraska and occupy the local wheat silo. Since 9/11, 104 Americans have been killed by foreign-launched terrorist attacks. In that time, almost 500,000 died in car accidents, but very few people think twice about driving somewhere. It's hard to keep perspective in the age of fear. Jonathan Haidt, a social psychologist and professor at New York University who wrote the best-selling book The Coddling of the American Mind, attributes the skyrocketing rates of anxiety and mental illness to several factors, but one is helicopter parenting. Many younger people were overly sheltered by parents who were so worried about their kids' well-being that they solved all of their problems for them. Whether it's conflicts with friends, bad grades in school, or even issues at work, the parents stepped in to help. And while it's nice to have support from parents, children who do not solve their own problems end up having little resilience. When you've never faced adversity, even small problems can seem overwhelming, and you end up frightened of doing anything on your own. Motorcycling is an independent activity, and it takes an independently minded person to take it up, a contrarian even. If you're overly reliant on advice from other people, especially your parents, guess what you're gonna hear? Don't do it, it's dangerous. And that is true, it is dangerous, but as I stated before, anything worth doing is risky. With a philosophy like that, you'll never take up a new sport, go out for a team, audition for that play, or approach that person you have a crush on. All of those risk rejection and embarrassment. Why go through that when you can just play it safe, stay in your lane, and never go out on a limb? We go through it because taking on challenges makes life worth living. There's a reason why people who are given everything in life free often end up unhappy. You can be a trust fund kid with a mansion and a Lambo for every day of the week, but if you've never achieved anything on your own, you'll never feel true satisfaction. Ever camped in an area where there were bears, mountain lions, and wolves? Did you enjoy it? Imagine missing out on that experience because you were afraid. Imagine you just stayed home and doom-scrolled Instagram instead. Or imagine not going out for that team in high school, but sitting in your bedroom and playing esports for countless hours instead. This is a strange statement to make, but I was lucky growing up as a kid in communist Poland in the 1980s. We were the latchkey generation, growing up with working parents and largely being left to our own devices. I was running around my small town at 8, riding my bike, and having adventures with my friends largely without parental supervision. And all those experiences helped make me the independent person I've become. It's sad to see that kids have lost that these days. I mean, you get arrested if you let your kid walk to school by themselves in some places. No wonder young people who grow up this way struggle with independence. Despite the world being safer than ever, today's parents, my generation, fears that there is danger lurking behind every corner. That's what we get for growing up staring at missing children on milk cartons, despite the fact that the chances of a kid being abducted in North America is as close to zero as makes no difference. Today, kids like me are called free range, whereas back in the day, we were just kids. When I got to Canada at the age of 9, I received a BMX bike and went exploring all around the High Park area of Toronto with my friends. Out all day, just be home for supper. Today, I'd have been sheltered from the dangers of the outdoors, and my socializing would be sitting in my bedroom and playing video games with my friends. Not ragging on video games, I've played them before, just saying, they have become a substitute for accomplishment. Why go out for the basketball team at school and risk not making it when you can be LeBron on God mode and win the championship every night? Why? Because fake accomplishments are not worthwhile. You know you didn't actually get better at basketball, take a chance going out for a team, or had to get in shape to play the game. You literally twiddled your thumbs for a bit and went to sleep with an empty feeling inside. No wonder the kids are depressed. It's the same as if you played video games of motorcycling instead of going out for a ride. Signing up for a track day or a motocross lesson and getting smoked by everyone there is still far preferable to winning the MotoGP championship in a make-believe world. Unfortunately, too many youngsters these days feel like what happens on the screen is a real experience. Video games are fine to come home to and decompress for a bit, but are not meant to provide you with a sense of accomplishment. You have to accomplish something to feel that. So, are young people's fears killing motorcycling? It's one of the factors, the others being the high cost of entry and the availability of many other alternatives for having fun these days. Will the motorcycle industry peter out once the boomers and Gen Xers age out of riding? No, but it may be much diminished unless younger folks learn to overcome their fears and embrace challenges and greater independence. And of course many have. We're talking about averages and trends here, not all young people. There are still plenty of younger riders out there, just not as many as before. So, is my daughter going to be riding an electric or gas bike when she's 3? Nah, I'll start her out on a push bike and graduate her to pedals. Later, when she's mastered that, if she sees daddy riding dirt bikes and really wants to try it, I'll let her. No pressure though. And whatever she decides, Brooke and I will be the type of parents who will support and teach her to be confident and embrace challenges. She'll be swimming, paddling, hiking, cycling, and generally running around outdoors. We'll give her the freedom to test herself, and she can decide what she does with that freedom. Hopefully, other parents also decide to give their kids a little bit of slack and let them explore, challenge themselves, make mistakes, and solve their own problems. It'll make for a more resilient and interesting generation. But I want to hear from you. What do you think accounts for the younger generation's reluctance to embrace motorcycling? If your kids want to try it, will you advise them against it? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay safe out on the roads and the trails, and from our now slightly larger family, may the spokes be with you. She's going to drive standard.
Look at her eyes.
Oh, it's a 6-speed. No, it's a 7-speed Porsche. 7-speed. One way, boom, the other way. You are hard to wake up, Cassidy.